cuts to in-work tax credits will go ahead, Prime Minister David Cameron has said, despite calls from within his own party to think again. The PM told the BBC's Andrew Marr show the cuts were part of wider reforms that would leave people better off. The changes we have put forward are right and they come with higher pay and lower taxes, he argued. But critics, including ex-Tory Minister David Willetts, say millions of working families will be left out of pocket. In other highlights from his Marr interview, David Cameron said his party would be anchored in the common ground of British politics as Labour lurches to the left. He revealed he would be prepared to use Britain's nuclear weapons, and accused Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn of undermining national security by saying he would not do so. He gave details of a new voluntary contract for GPS to deliver 7-day care for all patients by 2020. He rejected an offer from Unite Union leader Len McCluskey to accept higher strike ballot thresholds in return for allowing online voting, saying such a move would be open to fraud. Mr. Cameron said he could not guarantee he'll get the changes he wants from his EU negotiations, but Britain benefits from being in the EU. He said there was nothing he could bring back that would satisfy some Eurosceptics in his party. The TUC is planning what it claims will be a 70,000-strong march against austerity in Manchester later, as the Conservatives gather in the city for their annual conference. More than 3 million low-paid workers will be told how much they will lose from the changes to tax credits just before Christmas. Former Conservative Minister David Willetts has urged Mr. Cameron and Chancellor George Osborne to look again at the changes, a view supported by Labour MP Frank Field and Conservative MP Boris Johnson. The Institute for Fiscal Studies has warned it is arithmetically impossible for nobody to lose out under the changes, while another think tank, the Resolution Foundation, said more than 1 million households will lose an average of £1,350 a year. Better system. But speaking to the Andrew Marr show, Mr. Cameron said the introduction of the national living wage and continued increases to the personal tax allowance would protect the poorest. He said, "We have had the vote in Parliament on tax credits and I think people respect this argument that the national living wage, a 50p increase next year, so £1.20 a week pay rise, rising to £9 by the end of this Parliament, that is a very significant change that really helps to make work pay rather than a tax credit system that recycles money back to people." He said the UK was moving to a better system where people pay less in tax and keep more of the money they earn, but difficult decisions had to be made to tackle the deficit and protect the NHS and education. Asked about the possibility of further review ahead of next month's autumn statement, Mr. Cameron said, "No, we think the changes we have put forward are right and they come with higher pay and lower taxes." Trade Union Bill. Giving Labour's reaction to the Prime Minister's comments on tax credits, Shadow Minister Jonathan Ashworth said, "David Cameron has shown that his promises to stand up for working families are a complete farce." He said the PM's promises on a 7-day NHS had been made before and not delivered, and the PM had refused to come clean in his Marr interview about when he was informed directly about the non-DOM tax status of former Conservative Party donor Lord Ashcroft. Mr. Cameron appeared to offer an olive branch to trade unions angry at plans to raise strike ballot thresholds, describing their offer of a compromise involving the introduction of electronic voting as interesting. "The trade unions are accepting these thresholds are right, that you shouldn't have damaging strikes that close schools or shut hospitals or stop underground systems working, you shouldn't have those things without a proper turnout of voters," he told Andrew Marr. But he added, "The Speaker of the House of Commons did put together a commission to look at electronic voting and the conclusion of that commission was that it wasn't safe from fraud. So I think there are problems with that approach." Mr. Cameron suggested controversial parts of the bill such as a requirement for people on pickets to wear armbands and to have social media posts vetted in advance could be reviewed. "All these measures in the legislation can be discussed as they go through Parliament," he told Andrew Marr. Quizzed about Unite leader Len McCluskey's claim on the same programme that he had never met the Prime Minister, Mr. Cameron said, "I've met the TUC in my office, they can bring who they like frankly. But TUC General Secretary Francis O'Grady denied claims of a meeting at number 10 to discuss the controversial trade union bill. Not true. I wrote to him just after the election, but still no reply, she tweeted.